Roth conversions can be a great tool in retirement, but I see a lot of mistakes when it comes to these conversions. So today I'm going to talk about 3 common mistakes I see around converting too little, too much, or at the wrong time. So let's jump right into it. All right, so the first Roth conversion mistake that I want to talk about is kind of my biggest pet peeve, which is missing an opportunity. And what I mean by that is when you reach retirement, you might have a few years where your income is super low. Okay, so you might have a year here where it's really low, a year here where it's really low. But then when we project out, when you turn on Social Security, you start, let's say you start one of those here, and then you start another social, let's say you just start both Social Securities, and oh, by the way, we now have to add this same income, because let's say that these two were IRA distributions, all right, so just ordinary income. Well, we got to add that on. So it's clear that you're going to hit the 22% tax bracket at some point. So here and here, there's no reason to have this low of income. So we should have been converting to fill up the 12% bracket each of those years so that the money right here that was in your traditional IRA, it now comes out, has been taxed at 12% instead of in the future being taxed at 22. So that's the first Roth conversion mistake I see, is missing an opportunity. And there's, caveat on top of caveat. You got to have the cash to pay for the taxes, all these things. But I do see it so often where we miss an opportunity just coming from a lack of intentional planning. The next mistake I see comes almost in the opposite, which is converting everything. And I see financial advisors actually make this mistake. Maybe you are someone who you just really want to get everything converted and just get it out of the way, have all tax-free money. And don't get me wrong, it's not the end of the world if this happens, but let's just pretend like you convert everything at an average rate of 15%, okay? So you converted everything at 15%. Well, reason number one why this might not have been a good idea to convert everything, and by the way, I'm not talking about converting everything in one single year. That's usually not a good idea either. What I'm talking about is literally from age 65 when you retire to age 73, 75, whatever your RMD age is, converting all of your IRAs. So all you have left now are Roth IRAs. The first reason this is a bad idea is that QCDs exist. So if you are charitably inclined, QCDs are qualified charitable distributions, and they are not taxable. And you don't have to itemize your deductions in order to get the benefit. So basically what happens is if you want to give $5,000 out of your traditional IRA, it goes straight to the charity, and when that happens, it's not taxable. So if you are charitably inclined and you know that you'll be giving, that's one reason it's a good idea to leave something in the IRA so that you can do your charitable giving from your traditional IRA and it's not taxable. If you converted everything, you wasted 15% on some of your dollars that were converted. Reason number two is unfortunately not a fun one, and that is long-term care. So long-term care expenses are deductible with a bunch of caveats. But overall, I mean, if you are in a long-term care situation, you're going to have medical expenses, qualifying medical expenses anywhere from $30 to $90 to $120,000 a year, whatever it may be. And yes, there are thresholds to, medical expenses and how they're deducted and all of that. But more than likely, if you're in a long-term care situation, you are going to be able to deduct some medical expenses. So if you convert everything, then you may not have any income to offset your deductions with. So you're kind of leaving money on the table. Once again, you might be leaving 15% on the table or whatever tax rate it was that you converted at. And then number three, reason that converting everything isn't always a good idea is, and this is a pretty unique situation, it would be if the beneficiary is in a lower tax bracket. So if you have IRAs that you know are not going to be touched and you're just planning to leave them, the impulse is, and most of the time, if you can do some good planning to convert to Roth so that your kids or your beneficiaries can inherit them tax-free and not have to worry about taking required distributions over 10 years, which is what you have to do when you inherit a traditional IRA, that's usually a good thing. But where that's not a good thing is if you are in the 32% tax bracket and you convert because, you don't want to leave any tax burden to your kids. Well, if you do that and your kid is in the 12% tax bracket, then you're actually leaving less than the net amount that they could have had with some careful planning, even after doing the required distributions. So those are just 3 examples where converting everything is actually a conversion mistake. So the next mistake I want to look at is converting too much while you're in higher tax brackets right before you retire. So let's say you're working and you're basically filling up the 22% tax bracket with your wage income. And you've heard that Roth conversions are a good idea, so you go ahead and you do a conversion. Well, you're converting that money and paying 24% tax on it because that's the bracket you're in. Well, next year you retire and now your income is way down here because maybe your expenses are low, you have some cash savings to live on, whatever it may be. There's lots of different reasons your taxable income might be low. Well, you just converted at 24% when you could have had an opportunity to convert at 12%. And, sometimes it's hard to project these things out, but that's why it's important to do intentional planning. Now, why are Roth conversion mistakes important to avoid? Well, obviously, I want you to keep more of your money so that you can spend it on creating the best life possible for you. And if you happen to pass away before you get to spend it all, I want your beneficiaries who you love to inherit that money and do something great with it. Now, if you want to see Roth conversions in action with a bunch of moving parts, which is what usually happens in retirement, go check out this video where you can see how I analyze that. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe so that you can get my videos each week as I release them, where I'm going to be talking about tax planning, retirement planning, and financial independence in general. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.